Hello everyone, welcome back. Welcome freaking back. As you guys can see by the title, a train. As you guys can see by the title and the thumbnail of this video, today we are kind of going to do a deep dive on leprechauns. We're going to be talking about the lore of leprechauns. So, without further ado, let's get into this video. So, we all know that around this time of the year, there are leprechauns, we all hear the myth about leprechauns being around during St. Patrick's Day. We all know the myth of leprechauns. We all do. Why is this not focusing? Anyway, so we all know the lore of leprechauns and kind of what the leprechauns symbolize, I guess you could say. They're lucky creatures. They are just full of luck. So leprechauns are kind of from Irish folklore. They're solitary and mischievous fairies. So technically a leprechaun is a fae. It is a fairy. So they are technically a fairy. And with that, they are cobblers. And if you don't know what a cobbler is a shoemaker. So leprechauns technically started out before all of the myths and the lore started to get deeper. Leprechauns started out being fairy shoemakers. They make shoes for other fairies. And they were originally, this is where it starts to get a little bit fun. Leprechauns were originally depicted in red. That's right, you heard me. Red rather than green. And the reason that they changed to green was because they were adopted by Irish folklore. So they are found often in the countryside, which I kind of guess is where Irish folklore kind of adopted them, because if you've ever seen Ireland, it is all mountainous, it is all countryside. So I'm pretty sure that that's where they adopted the folklore of leprechauns. And like I said, they are known as fairy shoemakers. And here is something fun for you. Here is something fun. The presence indicator. You heard me. The presence indicator of a leprechaun is hearing the sound of tiny hammers. Isn't that such a fun fact? So like literally all month I've been listening for tiny hammers. Does that make me insane? Maybe. Am I enjoying trying to find leprechauns? Yeah. So with that, let's get into finding leprechauns, aka the reason that everyone wants to trap a leprechaun. So leprechauns possess magical powers and abilities, and their main power is the ability to disappear instantaneously whenever not being watched. So they can also cast illusions to deceive and confuse humans as well, which I find really funny. And we all know the lore of leprechauns. They're tricksters, they're pranksters, they have treasure. You know what I mean? That's where the pot of gold comes from, is that these creatures were said to have treasure. So since that is the case, they're notoriously untrustworthy because they possess such treasure and so many people are after that treasure. So they are really difficult to catch because they're so untrustworthy. And if they're caught, they will grant you, that's right, you're hearing me, they will grant you 3 wishes, technically like a genie in a way. But here's where it gets really interesting. So they grant you these wishes so that they can get freedom. They don't want to be trapped. So what they do is this. Now I'm going to tell you 2 stories. 2. One of them is where, let me just tell you the story, okay? So this story involves a human capturing a leprechaun, okay? So a human set up a trap to catch a leprechaun, and once the leprechaun was caught, the human demanded, absolutely demanded, all of this leprechaun's gold. So the leprechaun complied, only to trick the human into turning around, giving it the ability to disappear. Because like I said, one of their magical powers is the ability to disappear instantaneously when not being watched. So this leprechaun tricked this human into turning around so that the leprechaun wasn't being watched and could disappear. Let's talk about the second story. This one is where it gets so crazy. This story made me jaw drop. I did so much research on leprechauns, which I would love to see my search history from this video, because honestly, I did so much research on leprechauns, it's not even funny. But this story, a leprechaun was captured, which is the case for all of these stories, okay? The leprechaun was captured. And this human that captured the leprechaun saw that the leprechaun had gold and saw that it had all of these treasures, and so the human marked the bush next to where they saw this leprechaun. So they saw the leprechaun, saw the treasure, there was a bush sitting next to them, so he laid his coat on top of said bush so that he would be able to find the bush later. Later, whenever he returned, every single bush in a 50-mile radius was marked with the same identical coat. So this human did not know where to go to find this leprechaun and the treasure. This human ended up being very much so deceived by this leprechaun, which leads us back into what I said earlier. They are mischievous, they are deceivers, they're tricksters, they're pranksters, and they are very untrustworthy. So if we are going to kind of jumble all of this into one, leprechaun literally means small body. Small body. Leprechaun means small body, and we all know leprechauns are depicted as small creatures. And like I said earlier, leprechauns were originally depicted in red, but were adopted by Irish culture and changed into green. They possess abilities that make them cunning and make them not easily found. And really, the best, most exciting part of all of the research that I've done for this video is if you hear a tiny hammer, you're probably in the presence of a leprechaun. I think that's fantastic. Now, I know this video is on the shorter side, but I felt like since St. Patrick's Day is coming up, what better time to really do a deep dive on one of the largest myths during St. Patrick's Day, which are leprechauns. I remember growing up, my elementary school would go all out for St. Patrick's Day. Our toilet bowls were like, the water in them were turned green. There was sparkles and just everywhere. Like, things were just so chaotic. I remember you would walk into your classrooms on St. Patrick's Day and your desks would be upturned, your desks would be moved. There was just chaos all over the place, and I found that that is such a core memory for me, and I think that's probably one of the main reasons why I wanted to do such a deep dive on leprechauns, because leprechauns are a core memory for me because of the way that my elementary school had our St. Patrick's Days. And I genuinely love doing deep dives like this, especially on mythical creatures. But I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you guys got some information from this video. And if you want to, I guess, listen for some tiny hammers and try to trap your own leprechaun and get some treasure. But I will say that if you do that, you're probably going to be deceived, and you're probably going to end up in an insane asylum, because you're gonna be so sure that you saw something, and then this leprechaun's going to deceive you and going to confuse your head. So maybe don't search for leprechauns, but if you want to, do it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you leave a comment downstairs. Make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.